Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. Today we have the real deal, Anthony Diehl. Anthony, my first question for you is, you say you've solved cortisol face, but what I'm looking at tells me otherwise.
Anthony, can we see your cortisol balls?
Jeez, cortisol face. Just like, semaglutide face and all that sort of.
That's just called pancake ass and pancake face. But
Pancake ass is real.
It is real. It's a real
I almost.
It's because it's people who aren't lifting. They don't have the muscular background. They're just using it, so it wouldn't apply to everybody. But yeah,
no, it doesn't.
What do you like less, Anthony? Pancake ass or BBL?
Oh man, you just asked an impossible question.
I would say it'd have to be how the BBL was done.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and
it can be crazy whack, and these people are walking around like they're pulling it off,
like no hamstrings.
Honestly, it's like
it's just the letter P.
You go into Walmart at like 3:00 in the morning, and there's just people walking around with full confidence. Dude, I'm a bodybuilder, and I still to this day get like, it's just body dysmorphia, but I don't like taking my shirt off at the pool.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I'm not voluntarily ripping it off.
And I'm not going to say like that's a healthy thing, but I'm going to say like, hey, some degree of self-awareness is probably good. And there's just people walking around. I'm like, all right, man, kudos to you for just, doing your thing.
So answer the question, Anthony.
BBL.
Yeah. I'm in the thing because at least
you can fix the pancake ass.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. You can grow the ass, but once you go down the BBL route, unless they take the implants out, you're fucked.
It's done. It's over. Yeah.
And it's funny to see the different pockets around the country where these different things are popular, right? Like you come up to like San Diego area, it's relatively holistically natural. Like people like to be outside, they like to work out here, but you go like up north to LA, it's GLP-1s. Everybody's 104 pounds soaking wet. There's not an ounce of muscle tissue in the entire LA County. And then you go to like Miami, and it's the complete opposite. It's like guts and BBL. Like just as much as they have in the back, they have in the front. And there's just you don't even know what you're looking at. It's like, is it a tire?
It's the letter S.
Part of the BBL.
The letter S.
Spent any time in California at all, but I'm actually going to be out there for a podcast the second week of June, and I'll be making a little trip up to Venice Beach. I have to. Got to go up there. So
you got to see it.
You
got to see it. It's fun to see like that, just that like cage where everybody works out at Muscle Beach. It's just an interesting, like, it's a culture experience for us.
Sure. Absolutely.
100%. Whose podcast are you going to be on?
So, are you familiar with Natalie Eva Marie? She's a WWE superstar. Yes. And they have like Nem Recovery, and they have that podcast, and they talk a lot about mental health and all this, things like that. I became friends with her a few years ago through, actually, I met them out at SHOT Show, which is out there in Vegas. It's like the largest industry trade show for firearms industry, hunting, police, whatever. And I was out there with a booth called Hold My Guns, which is pretty dope. And their mission is to kind of help people in multiple different scenarios, but particularly if you're going through a case of, we know that a lot of veterans are committing suicide, and they won't go get the requisite help that they need, because if they raise their hand and say, hey, I need some help, they're going to get their firearms taken. And these are men's men. So this is a place where you can, you don't have to disclose why, but people can like take your guns for you, hold them in a safe locker, and then you can go get the requisite help that you need. But it also helps to like that guns are safe when guys are on deployment, or if you're on a move across state lines. Most of us, don't care, just pack up our stuff and roll. But technically there's a legal way to do that and not do that. So I was there, and she was there as well. So became friends with them and have kept that connection up over the years. And so going out there to be on their podcast.
Nice. So you're obviously pro gun control.
Yes. Use both hands. Keep your eyes on the sight.
Anthony,
I'm looking at his guns, and they're looking out of control to me. Look at that.
He's not a small man. Anthony is not a small man. For anybody who's watching, he's about 6'9", 540 pounds.
That's right.
And he's like 4% body fat. So he's doing something right. Talk to us a little bit about your background, just so the audience has some idea that you're credible and not just a fucking militant quack job.
Oh, man. Well,
feel free to make stuff up too.
Okay. No.
2 truths and a lie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's make this like super, try to keep it short. So I used to be fat. And then I decided in college one day that I just didn't want to be out of shape anymore. I can't really tell you why.
Because you liked girls.
I did like girls. Dude, I make fun of my wife for this. So we went to the same college, and I teased her. My freshman year, I was pretty obese. Like I was 260, but I couldn't do like a single push-up. So it was an ugly 260. And she didn't notice me. And then I come back the next year like lean, like 170 and shredded. And hey.
I'm picturing, what is it, Vladimir or whatever for the program?
Yeah. Latimer?
Yeah, but he was like skinny, and he put on like 100 pounds, comes back. Jeez. I like it.
Wait, so she approached you?
She did not approach me. So
she noticed you.
She worked in a coffee shop. I hated coffee at the time, so I needed an excuse to go in there. And I knew that she was a Southern girl. And so I would go in there, order the most the most frou-frou drink ever. It'd be like a Snickers Frappuccino.
This is when you were heavy.
Yeah, Okay. Well, I was still lean at the time, but I'm like, go in there, and black coffee ain't it. So I'd get this thing, and then I would sit over there and play my guitar, and I would literally play like Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss to like get her attention. And I did, and she's from Virginia. She's a good old country girl. So yeah, we started dating my sophomore year, and we got married like 10 seconds after I graduated.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
That's wild.
We get 16 years in June.
Holy shit! Good for you.
Yep.
So that was like the start of your fitness journey, so to speak.
Fitness journey, yeah. And then I found Strongman. So I lost a bunch of weight, and what ended up happening essentially was I just ran. I didn't know anything about fitness or nutrition when I lost weight. I just knew, hey, I'm going to eat a bunch of meat and vegetables, and I'm going to run every day. And I went to the gym, and I'm like, okay, let's see how far I can go. And I went exactly 6 laps around the basketball court until I was dying. And so I said, all right, cool. So I'm just going to add a lap every single day. And I did.
Every day?
Every day.
Holy shit, that's a lot of laps.
Dude, not every week. Every day.
Every day. And I lost 90 pounds in around 9 months.
Wait, so you're telling me that eat less, move more works?
Did you magically create a calorie deficit, or was it just that you added a lap? It had nothing to do with calories. It was just that you added calories.
A lap. I just beat the insulin into submission. Yeah. And so I went from like fat kid to running that often, which is not necessarily wise. And I hurt my hip. And I remember being scared I was going to gain all the weight back. And a buddy of mine was like, hey, come to the weight room with me. I'll show you how to lift weights. And I'd never lifted. So this is, I guess I was still 19, and started my sophomore year just lifting weights, super weak. But within about 9 months, and completely natural, like I didn't know what I was doing. I was repping 300 pounds on the bench press, training like an idiot. But I realized, you know what, that inner fat kid, like I'm a cornbread country boy. Like I was born to be strong. And I fell in love with strength. And now I trained like a fool for a long time. It was like bench and curls every other day. Once a month, we might press, and then the occasional deadlift with horrendous cat back form. And so it probably wasn't until I was like 25 or 26 that I found Elite FTS online, started reading, watching videos, realizing everything I was doing was wrong, started training like a powerlifter in the gym, and then found Strongman through a buddy of mine. And the guy at the time, I'd been training Strongman for all of 4 weeks, and he was like, hey, I signed you up for a competition. I'm like, okay. And so did my first competition, and I got addicted, man. I did, I think, 35 competitions in 8 years.
Wow.
And so I got my pro card when I was 32. And 2 years later, won America's Strongest Man. And then a year later, my body rebelled and, tore a bicep, which is the quintessential. If you're a strong man, you'd have to tear a bicep. It's part of it. Hamstrings, pec, everything else. And so I transitioned into bodybuilding because I actually called my coach and I was like, hey man, I'm going to pay you for a year of coaching. The reason why is I need to be invested because I know my dumbass self, and right now I'm in pain, but in 2 weeks I'm going to be in the gym trying to max log press again. So I need to transition to bodybuilding, and I transitioned to bodybuilding and loved it and haven't looked back. And I love the way I feel. I'm still strong. I would say maybe I'm definitely not as strong as I was in my peak strongman days, but like I do jujitsu now without my body breaking. I could absolutely kick, 2020 America's Strongest Man version of me. I could kick my ass now. Like I'm way more fit and healthy, and I like the way I look. I like the way I feel. I like my energy levels. I'm not taking enough gear to kill an elephant, so life is good.
I just want to point out that he did everything wrong and made gains. For all the people who, it's so important because so many people get stuck. I'm not doing it right. Am I doing it wrong? This is why I'm not getting somewhere. You got in the gym and you did something and you pushed yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Dude, I
just get started.
I did a reel on this morning. Something I preach to all my coaches and my clients is principle over method.
Yeah.
Like there's a million methods out there, and I view all the various methods as tools in a toolbox. You take it out when you need it, put it back when you're done. Look at the stage of life that I'm in. I'm busy. I'm trying to run a business and mentor people. I'm also older, but like I've been training so long, my intensity and exercise selection and setup and execution are so on point. I don't ever do more than 5 exercises in a single session. And I will typically do 1 to 2 little feeder sets, 2 really hard, close to failure sets, and I'm out to the next one.
That's it.
Gone.
Well, I think that comes with practical evolution, just being in the space for long, not even like being a professional in the space, but just spending enough time in the weight room to evolve as an individual and to mature. Because a lot of people, like we all have the same come up story. We found something that was kind of like an aesthetic pursuit that fell into a love affair that then evolved into all these different skill sets, whether it was powerlifting, strongman, bodybuilding, whatever. And I think the problem now is like so many people find weightlifting so late in their life. Like we started when we were young, we were kind of fortunate, but our clients are starting in like their 40s or their 50s.
Yeah, right.
And they feel
25 plus years in when we were 40.
Like they have to like our job is to help them circumvent that learning curve to some degree.
Sure.
But I don't want to have them circumvent it so much to where they don't go through the pain points of growth. Right. Because you kind of have to fuck up a little bit. That's and right. You have to feel what it's like to like, maybe that doesn't feel good when I go that deep. Or if I get into this position, it's not ideal. Or if I don't give myself enough time to recover, I don't feel as good. Or if I don't eat well enough before I train, I don't have as much energy. Like you have to tease these problems out with just having the reps under your belt. And so many people just want to fast track all of it all the time.
Fast tracking. I mean, I remember where I was when I had the aha moment of what true training to failure was. It was my first open strongman competition, and we're doing a car deadlift. And the thing about a car deadlift, it's on a lever, right? And the point at the axis of the back is tires. So there's some compression of the rubber. So when you pull initially, there's no movement. And so that can get into your head for a second because like the tires have to compress. It's like, so you're yanking, but you're like, nothing's really coming off the ground. And so you have to really commit to it and drive through that. And I remember ripping on this thing, nothing's happening. I'm setting it back down, nothing's happening. You have 60 seconds. And a guy I'm still great friends with, excellent coach, comes up to me and he's screaming in my ear. And he was like, I'm going to count down from 5 down to 1. He's like, you start pulling at 5 and you do not stop until I get to 1. And I'll never forget. I'm sitting there. He goes, 5. And I yank on it. 4. Nothing's happening. 3. Holy shit. And 2. All of a sudden it's going up. 1. And all of a sudden I get a rep. Boom. Do it again. Boom. Do it again. End up getting 7 reps. And it was so cool. I got dead last at that competition, but I walked out of there. I was like, that is real effort. And my training took off because what I thought was hard before. Now I know. Now I know what it's like to vomit after a set and go, okay, that was the game changer. I needed that experience to feel what true effort felt like. I don't think I would have gotten where I was without that experience because my training just went to the next level.
And I think it's such an interesting commentary and testament to what the human body is capable of and how unfragile it really is. Because if you look online right now, and I want to dive deeper into this subject, we hear things like, if your cortisol spikes, you're going to get fat and you're not going to recover and you're going to die. Or if your insulin spikes, same thing happens. And these are all byproducts of stress. Meanwhile, here you are putting in intense, calculated, measured effort over time, and there's no problems. It's nothing but progress moving forward. So talk to our audience about what cortisol is and why it's not this scary, horrible thing that they need to be careful about.
Yeah, well, first off, if you don't have cortisol, you die. We need cortisol. It's a great thing. Cortisol is one of those words, kind of like cholesterol. You hear it and you just feel negative, and you shouldn't. You do. Like, I know better, and I still think of cholesterol. I think of, I can't believe it's not butter, and that's bad. Like, that's where my mind goes. And well, with cortisol, same thing. I think at the end of the day, everybody, if we're being honest, just wants a thing out there outside of their own personal responsibility they can point to and go, that's the reason. Yeah. See, it's not me and my choices. I will say this. I do think that hormones and conditions can definitely influence behavioral choices. That sucks. I mean, if you have a leptin deficiency, that's the hormone that signals satiety. Well, that sucks because now you never really feel full or satisfied. So you have a desire to eat more. But here's the deal. At the end of the day, it still is your choice. Now, that does suck for you, and I want to see that person get help. But if you don't put the substrate in, matter doesn't spontaneously appear. Fat cells don't just accumulate out of air. It doesn't work that way.
Even with carbohydrates in the diet?
Even with carbohydrates in the diet.
Okay. Like, this is all new to me. I'm like,
so yeah,
my world is shook.
Look, your cortisol's high, your stress hormone. Cortisol's great. Like, if I jump out or a mugger jumps out to beat you, cortisol is going to spike, norepinephrine, epinephrine, adrenaline courses through your veins, liver sends out a little bit of blood glucose, so you can either throw a punch or run. That's great. Like, we need that. It's the hormone that helps wake you up in the morning, right? And so it's a good thing. If your cortisol is constantly elevated, if you're constantly in a high stress state, then you are going to be searching for dopamine. And you could get that fixed through lots of things: alcohol, drugs, sex, food, whatever.
These are a few of my favorite things.
And so like, that's where I think the issue comes in, is that, it can influence behaviors, but there's not a direct, this is high, therefore weight is being gained. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the sad part is people are hearing things like, if you drink coffee before water in the morning, it spikes your cortisol and it prevents you from losing fat. So now it's like these poor women specifically, because they're the ones who this messaging is usually thrown upon. Now they're like sitting there and micromanaging these very irrelevant variables when they're missing the forest for the trees and being like, well, I don't even know how much protein I eat, but now I'm worried about drinking coffee before water.
I had an hour-long call yesterday with another coach who was at the summit, Casey Hines.
Oh, yeah.
And she and I were talking yesterday, and she's a former nurse. And one of the things that we were kind of lamenting is that it seems like in the nutrition space, especially coaching, you're either team science all the way over here, or like team Maha all the way over here. And it's like, you're either functional or you're Western medicine. And I'm like, oh man, there's so much benefit in all of it. And it just takes wisdom and nuance. Like, I actually do think there's a lot of studies. I think there's value in using, peppermint oil sometimes to drive down fevers in small children instead of NSAIDs. But guess what? If my kid breaks their tibia, we're going to go to the ER. We're not rubbing lavender on it. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's, you can use some ashwagandha and adaptogenic herbs to do some stuff. But also, this is the best time ever to be alive. Like, Western medicine's amazing with infectious disease and transplants and orthopedics, and like, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and. And so in the functional space, like, I would probably say I lean more functional, but like our doctor, who I do love, but she told my wife that just the other day. I was looking at her Dutch test. She's like, yeah, I think you really need to avoid coffee in the morning so it doesn't spike your cortisol. And I was like, babe, you need to avoid the donuts in the morning. Like, good. Donuts too.
Even too, like the people that are selling like the cortisol reset programs. At the end of the day, it's just getting people to relax. It's like waking up, doing a face plunge in ice water, breath work, like these things that just kind of help maybe somebody relax. None of these things are special individually as themselves, but it's like just getting people to calm down.
And some people need that sort of stuff. I feel, again, what you're seeing there, I feel like, is all these things are tools in a toolbox. And then somebody wants to take the tool and broadly apply it to everybody for the sake of monetary gain. So I have a girl right now who actually I was talking with Austin Stout at the conference because I get a lot of gut health cases. I feel like I'm pretty decent at them, like pretty successful at solving gut health cases, but I have this one girl who I cannot get her to have a bowel movement to save my life. And I have thrown everything at her that I know.
3,000 milligrams of magnesium.
I'm like, drink a bottle of olive oil. If that doesn't lubricate shit, like we're in trouble. But Austin was like, hey man, there's a lot of times there's a lot of neurological things in cases like that. And, we had a really great discussion. I ended up having a video chat with her and just started, digging in a little bit, and the floodgate broke open and the dam broke. And she just releases to me all this story about her childhood, her relationships, all the stress that she's going on. So we have her working with a professional therapist. But then also I'm like, hey, you haven't had a bowel movement, in weeks. So this is the time for Western medicine to step in with some prescription strength prokinetics and get you moving, because she's very anti. I'm like, no. There's a time and place. We don't want to be dependent on it. We're going to root cause it. But right now we have to get you moving. We're going to get you working with this therapist to deal with these things. And we're going to work on some vagus nerve stimulation, things like that. Even singing and humming, cold plunges, putting your face in the water, stuff like that. Now, if I wanted to, I could design a nice little ebook around vagus nerve stimulation, all the reasons why you're stressed and how your childhood trauma is making you not able to lose fat, and sell it online, right? And so I think that's what's happening is like there are real world applications for some of these niche tools. But like, how often do you need a little star bit from your toolbox?
Yeah.
Not often.
And it's the idea when they throw the word reset in, it's like, you're going to do this and then you're going to be back to normal. But then when you go back to your old lifestyle, all that stuff comes back. It's still
exactly,
people are,
I mean, the reality is the fact that we have access to all this information now, which we never did before. And we have so many professionals that are able to guide you through these things. It's, the thing that we'll always find about Western medicine is that it's always going to take the longest and most conservative route, because it's tied into a system of insurance that has to be able to cover this stuff to make it affordable. Unfortunately, as much as it sucks, blood work, Dutch testing, working with you, working with me, working with Austin, like, these are not cheap things.
Sure.
And these are cash pay problems that are going to get solved when you actually commit to the systems and the protocols that your hopefully good professionals are prescribing to you. And a lot of these things aren't rooted in PubMed science that you can Google. And just because it hasn't been found out yet, think about all the stuff that you and I learned on the gym floor in the 90s that's now coming out as actual evidence-based truth. So just because we're behind the eight ball and people are suffering today, in my opinion, let's deploy science to get people relief with the best methods we have available today. And let's worry about the potential damage that we're doing later, because these people are suffering now. Like, if you have a quality of life debilitating issue because of if this person isn't shit in 3 weeks,
we have a problem.
That's an emergency. Like, that's not something you need to walk around with and be like, no, I'm just going to wait for the peppermint oil to kick in. Like, no, we're gonna fucking literally go in there and extract feces out of your colon if we have to.
Correct. Get a spoon.
Well, it's so sad to me to see like this infighting of like, well, your method isn't evidence-based and mine is, and it's illegal to have to do this type of stuff and it's out of your scope. It's like, well, I've spilled hundreds of thousands of dollars into alternative education that I'm vetting and seeking, and I'm helping people. 95% of the time, my clients are getting help. They're not getting help the other route. So why, like, your job is wildly critical.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think too, like, there's definitely people that become grifters and, they just see a dollar to be made. I think what happens most of the time, at least if I'm honestly judging my heart, I know I can get caught up in, I'm a passionate person and I can get caught up in stuff real fast. And sometimes it's like when you learn something new, you have this new tool, it's a hammer, then everything's a nail, right? Like I remember I'm learning about gut health. All of you have parasites.
Yeah, right.
Oh, did you have bloating one time in your life? You have SIBO by this protocol.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
but it's an honest desire to help people, but then you realize like the more experience that I've gotten, I'm like, we probably just need to work on their basic habits of getting them to eat real food.
It's funny because I did like a year-long functional health mentorship, and that's like at the end of that year, it was like it all came back to basic stuff: sleep, variety in food, getting enough colors, micronutrition. Like it all went back to the basics. Everything went back to the basics, and obviously there's those specialty type things, but
sure, I do focus a lot on that in the bodybuilding space because there's still a lot of people following chicken and rice, tilapia and rice only for preps. I'm like, that's why we see a lot of SIBO. Like I get so many master's age females who have distended guts that look like they're 6 months pregnant after drinking water. And it's like, oh, well, tell me your story. Oh, I've been in prep on and off for 7 years eating tilapia and rice.
Eating
like,
bottom feeder fish.
Correct.
And no micronutrient diversity whatsoever.
No, so all my, and it's still sometimes you see in the bodybuilding world, people are like, you shouldn't eat fruit because sugar. I'm like,
oh my God.
So it's like my bodybuilders, we eat a wide variety of foods. They're all eating various sources of fruits and potatoes and sourdough bread and oats and eggs and fish and steak and chicken, and got to have a wide variety.
And most of these problems are occurring on the outskirts of humanity, right? Like it's the person who's eating 4 fast food meals a day that's got the fucking health problems and the gut problems, and it's the person who's eating nothing all day who's got the other end of the spectrum problems. The folks who land kind of in the moderate middle, who are usually just under-muscled and maybe can use a little bit of fat loss, like those aren't the people that are having debilitating problems. If they just ate more routinely and slightly more whole foods based, they wouldn't have any issues whatsoever.
Right. Quit, doom scrolling Instagram at 1 o'clock in the morning. We're good.
Well, and I think that is also an important commentary too, right? Like the information that we're now exposed to is so prevalent, and the more of it you look at, the more of it you're telling your algorithm to show you. So like you can very much get caught up in these rabbit holes, especially if you're an end user who doesn't know better, and you're going to think that seed oils are going to kill you and aspartame's killing you and cortisol is killing you, and if your insulin spikes, you're going to get fat. So like there's this level of fear that's now being instilled in people to where they're just afraid to make any decision whatsoever. And that's why I love talking with you, because you have a lot of conviction, but you also know how to dance in the middle.
Yeah, right.
And not a lot of people know how to do that well.
I try. I work hard because I know my tendencies to go one direction. I know my personality is like, and I have to go, I think it also helps too that, now that I'm building a team, I'm like, I need to be careful because I have people depending on me for, putting food on the table for their family. So like, it's good. It's a good check and balance on me to be like, is what I'm about to say helpful? Does it add value or whatever? So that's been, or is it just an opinion? And I'll just caveat those things. But I just did a reel yesterday on me driving, and I'm like sipping a Diet Pepsi, and I was like, "Will this kill me?"
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it will not.
He ironically got in a car crash at the end of that reel.
That would have been funny.
Actually, Anthony, you know what I'm curious about? Since you've been in the industry for so long, what are some of the things that you've changed your mind about?
Ooh, well, especially as we've seen mental health take a big hit. I used to be one of those guys who just preached like discipline. And I'm still all about discipline. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, absolutely. Like motivation comes and goes, like right feelings follow right actions, do the thing. I get it, but I used to just be opinionated about things that you don't need to have a firm opinion on. So I used to say stuff like type 2 diabetes is your fault. And to a large degree, a lot of people that eat, have type 2 diabetes, like you can't, but, as I grew to learn more, like, man, women who've been sexually abused or people who have faced abuse at all have like a way higher prevalence of developing type 2 diabetes simply because they're living in a chronic state of fight or flight. Their cortisol is always elevated. They're always living in a state of fear. I'm the definition of privileged. I grew up in a home with 2 loving parents. My mom did not have that privilege. She grew up in an absolute shit show, but my parents were amazing. And I grew up the definition of loved and cared for. And so like, maybe I shouldn't be so quick with that kind of rhetoric. Maybe I should say, hey, a lot of times, you know, I teach a high school logic class. This is my last year teaching it. But as I was teaching that class, I was like, dude, I do all of these fallacies all the time. And so I told my students on their final exam, it's coming up next week. And I was reviewing it with them. I said, guys, if you remember nothing else from anything I taught you, just remember that 1, you don't have to have an opinion on everything. You're allowed to say, hey, that's a good question. I haven't researched it enough. I'll have to get back to you at some point. Like, even a fool is thought wise when he keeps silent. And then, like, number 2, try to rarely use the words always and never.
Yeah.
If you could just exclude those, and if you use those words, you better be ready to like die on that hill and then defend it with data. And there are things I will say always and never about. So I've changed my mind kind of more like with the style of my rhetoric. But I went down the anti-seed oils path for like 10 minutes, and then I was like, these people are weird.
So what are some of the always never stuff that you will say?
I always say never. I mean, I never say always.
I never say always. Well, the most honest answer in all of nutrition and fitness is it depends.
Yeah, right.
Right. I'll say that. I'll say things like principle over method. You know, people should always focus on, you know, the quality of their relationships, or people should always eat 80% whole foods. Like, you can say some of those things with confidence. Like, there's going to be no net negative for doing that. No. But man, there's very few things where I'm going to say always or never, because you know what? I'm working with somebody who's got, there's a kidney transplant. I have them at like 0.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight, supplementing with EAAs, and there's a lot of food. They don't drink diet sodas. Why? Because any dark colored soda is loaded with a ton of phosphorus, which is not good for the kidneys. Not because of aspartame, right? It's just because they're in a very specific, unique situation. That's a one-off, though. That's not a rule. So it's a one-off. Trying to think of some of the others, but yeah, I've changed my position on quite a few things. I'm working through right now, not that it matters, but I got into a debate with a colleague of what's more important, like what's foundational. Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. And then there's an argument that could be made for liver being like, which one are they? I'm like, at the end of the day, they're both pretty freaking important. Right. Like, does it really matter which one's the most important? I don't know. But like, I like to nerd out about stuff like that. But I'm not going to ever declare an opinion like, this is it.
Yeah. So even things like our serotonin is produced in the gut, and people could talk about how that is going to affect mood.
That's right.
But serotonin in the gut is used for motility. It's not crossing into the brain for mood.
Right.
So it's so easy to say things like, now, will you feel better if you're eating good food and have healthy guts? Yeah, you're going to feel better because you're eating good food, but that serotonin that's produced in the gut is strictly for motility and not for our brain mood. It's two totally different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
nuance. But
you hear these things and it's just propagated.
Well, I did a reel, was it 2 weeks ago? Because there's a study floating around for a few seconds. It was like people who use a weighted vest when they're walking lose X percentage more weight. And I'm like, well, no shit. It's weight. But I walk with a weighted vest because I walk and my heart rate goes a little higher, and that's great. So I'm not anti-weighted vest, but it's like, read the study. They were wearing a weighted vest for 8 hours a day.
I was going to say it was all day, right? Yeah.
Are you going to wear a weighted vest all day? Or I think the delta was like 3-pound difference over a period of 8 weeks. Not me.
Yeah,
it'd be the same thing. You could say, yeah, you take a 300-pound person and have them walk 2 hours a day, and a 150-pound person walk 2 hours a day. Who's going to lose more weight? The heavier person. Right. You know, it's like, that's even the same kind of thing. Well, if you're heavier, it's, yeah.
Absolutely. That's how it goes. That's why the leaner you get, the harder it gets to lose.
Yeah.
Or
you can have a study.
You see it less on the scale.
Yeah,
So.
it's always interesting to me, like these studies, they get extrapolated and regurgitated, and they're just, the changes or the benefits are so almost immeasurable. It's like, why are we even bothering with any of this stuff? Like the fact that you guys actually threw 30 people in a room and asked them to do this bullshit is almost irresponsible. Like to what? To get a 0.1% difference? That's never going to make.
Even that, it's like, hey, these people lost 20% more weight than the control group. And then you look at the numbers and it's like over 8 weeks, they lost 1.2 pounds. The control group lost 1 pound. I mean, that's obviously like an exaggerated example, but it's 20%. But it's such a minimal, nothing thing in the whole scheme of things, how we can manipulate numbers.
I just went over this fallacy 2 weeks ago with my students, and the idea is like fake precision, and it's just manipulating data and statistics in such a way that it seems like a gross margin.
Yes.
Like if you're completely uneducated and you go to a shareholders meeting and they're like, hey, Amazon is performing well. We're year over year, we're up $4 million in Q2. For someone who's uneducated, like $4 million, holy cow. And I'm going, holy shit, they're going to go under. What's happening? 4 million is like, absolutely. That's what they should make in about 30 seconds on Prime Day. Right. So like what's happening? But you can express numbers in a way that seem really powerful. So you have to be like super careful. That even I've been guilty of this one. We probably all said it at some point because it's technically true. There's a million good reasons to build muscle, but one of the things people will say is, hey, when you increase your muscle mass, you increase your metabolic rate.
No, I know
And when you actually look at how much you increase it, good job, 80 calories a day.
Right, like 60 to 80 calories a day. But now, obviously, you do that for 25 years.
Correct, of course.
Yeah.
That's time.
But then also how much your hunger is driven up when you're training hard and gaining weight as well. So it's like
we all want to look for the magical solution to make it easy. It's not easy.
Yeah. So one of my clients sent me she's actually a coach too. She sent me a study, and it was obese women eating the same amount of calories. It was 1,500 calories broken up into different styles of eating. So it was like 200 calories. One group ate 200, 500, and 700. So first meal, second meal, third meal. Second group ate 700, 500, 200. So tapering down as the day went on. And it showed that the group that ate less towards the end of the day lost more weight at the end of the study. So I'm like, okay, I'm like sitting there like racking my brain, like, why would that be? Is it an energy expenditure thing? Blah, blah, blah. And I look at the study further and it's like, this all was self-reported. I'm like, oh, okay, done. Throw that fucking study out, because the second anybody self-reports calories, the margin of error is so wildly large. And I don't know. I mean, you probably know this fucking quack. What's her name? Marie Claire Haver, the fucking menopause doctor online. She had posted a thing about like how what's that?
They're best friends. So tell him.
So she posted it was like a video of her basically commenting on a woman's comment that said like her doctor gaslit her and said like, well, if you're truly eating this little, you should be losing weight. She's like, well, so many women get gaslit by the medical profession and they're told that they're lying about their calorie intake. It's like they're not being told that they're lying about their calorie intake. It's just like, unless you follow this person around with a scale and verify that they're actually being accurate about their intake, how you can't just take it at face value. That's not gaslighting. That's fucking evidence.
That's right. And I've been doing this for years, and I'm pretty dang good at eyeballing things and ballparking. And I'll always eat more than I think I'm eating when I intuitively eat, and then I go and weigh it. I'm like, like according my eyeballing of a bowl of cereal is I'm a family of 4. It's like, I'm like, holy, that is nothing. What is wrong with people? Right?
It is crazy. Like 3/4 of a cup.
Yeah. Or I love yogurt of any kind. Yeah. Yogurt, fresh fruit, which is good for you.
Fat fuck.
However, quantities still matter. And it turns out, this is why I try to get around to, I'm in the heart of Lancaster County. I'm surrounded by Amish people. It's home cooked food, locally grown. I mean, it's wonderful. It really is a great place to live. But it's really funny because they'll all preach like the homestead, like kind of Maha land sort of thing. And they're all about how like they make their French fries only in beef tallow. And I'm like, and you're all fat as shit. Like beef tallow fries taste delicious. They're amazing. And also, they're super calorie dense. It's not like the calories magically go away.
But they're a healthy fat. They don't have toxins in their body. I just posted about that. Like the inflammation from being overweight is way more inflammatory than any single ingredient.
Yeah, of course.
Can we touch on that, because I think people are so very concerned about the word inflammation, but they don't actually know the benefits of it, nor do they know what it actually means or how it's measured. So can you just talk about that topic very quickly?
Well, I mean, we can go back and forth on this, but I was so pissed. My mic didn't record. I got into a fucking cold plunge yesterday for 7 minutes into the talking head video, and my mic didn't work. And I was talking about like what the benefits are, and I was talking about how, hey, cold plunges post training are not wise if you're training for hypertrophy, because it blunts inflammation, and that's not a scary word. We need that process to signal growth and repair. When I was a strength athlete and I'm competing in multiple day tournaments or whatever else, and I get to the end of day one absolutely wrecked and I have to go perform tomorrow, I do want acute inflammation to drop, because I'm not concerned about my biceps getting bigger. I'm concerned about my ability to perform the next day. So I will cold plunge after jujitsu when my elbows are sore from getting armbarred or whatever else, or, and so again, stressing the idea, this is a tool. And I was making the video to say, here are the demonstrable, proven via randomized controlled trials in humans benefits of cold plunge, which are like 2. And then here are the speculative benefits of cold plunge that may or may not work for you. And here's how to use this tool. But hitting on the point that inflammation is not a bad thing. We need it to signal growth and repair. What would be bad is chronic inflammation. That becomes a problem. Again, the body's resilient. Like you said earlier, can handle a lot of stuff acutely. It's when it's chronic that becomes a problem. You can diet down to single-digit body fat percentage for a bodybuilding show and be fine. If you try to stay stage lean year-round, we have problems.
Yeah.
Right.
So how is inflammation, because it's a really big topic, especially in the menopause community, and like the word inflammation gets just shoved down these women's throats constantly. They're just so trying to be avoidant of it. How is it measured? Usually, like, just so people understand, and what are the negative versus positive effects of it?
Well, I mean, if I'm looking at inflammation, I'm looking at it holistically. So I'll look at people's blood work and look at everything from CRP, fasted insulin, glucose, blood pressure, all of that sort of thing. So how are you guys looking at it? I'm looking at it in that regard.
I mean, CRP and usually glucose are the 2 places I'll look first, if I even look.
Yeah.
Because that's out of my realm of expertise. I know enough about it for myself. I'm not going to go and play that game with Mrs. Jones, who can't eat 4 meals a day and fucking eat enough protein.
Right.
But
yeah,
so CRP, just give people the reasons why those are markers to look for.
Sure. So CRP, I tell people often, CRP doesn't really tell you anything specific. It's kind of like your body's check engine light. Traditional medical ranges is like 1 to 3. I realistically want to see people under 0.5, right? So, for example, I was in the hospital last April for a really bad infection in my leg, and my blood work, again, I just told you the ranges are 0 to 3, and mine was 89. So my check engine light was like, hey man, we need to get this checked out, right? My kidney values were off. My liver enzymes were like 700-800. It was absolutely insane. I'm good now.
This is why we tell you, don't do trend, people. This is why
I mean,
that was from the infection that you were getting those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I was 8 weeks out from a show, and I was pinning something, but it actually wasn't trend. And I got an abscess in my thigh, in my quad. And it was actually, you know what it was? It was L-carnitine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I'm very sterile, whatever else, but I ended up getting this infection in my leg. Now, I tried to push it off. I'm taking ibuprofen. I'm taking all kinds of stuff, and I just cannot get this pain to go away. And my leg swelled up, bad. And so I woke my wife up on a Sunday morning. I'm like, we got to go ahead. And like, my respirations are like 24 a minute. I haven't been able to keep my fever down in 3 days. And we get in, they're like, you are so lucky you came in now. They're like, you are septic. Also, you have rhabdo. Because I was on Clenbuterol all the time as well.
Oh,
I mean, dude, listen, I was 8 weeks out from my show. It was the most shredded I had ever been. I had 8 weeks to go, and I was sitting at 6% body fat.
Oh my God.
And I was just pushing through it. I think I was just working too hard, killing myself. And I don't know if there was, bacteria or something in there, but my body was just like, we can't handle this.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being in the hospital for a hot minute, and we got those values back. I was inflamed, guys. That was not a healthy kind of inflammation. That was a negative kind of inflammation. But these people that are being told all the time that they're inflamed, how do you know? Look, if your blood pressure is good, which everybody should own a blood pressure cuff because it's super cheap, under $30 on Amazon. Just go buy one. You could check your fasted blood glucose at home. That's super easy. Are you sleeping well? Do you feel rested in the morning? Are you eating normally? Do you have normal daily bowel movements? Like, how do you know you're inflamed?
Well, I think people think of inflammation as bloating, right? Like
Yes, people do think of it as that, which no, not at all. And there's another thing too. Coach, my belly sticks out a tad. Did you just eat? Yes. And I had 8 ounces of water. Cool. That's going to do that. In fact, when you wake up and you're shredded and dry, you're not going to look like that at 8 p.m.
No.
Do you have unhealthy levels of gas? Do you have any sort of pain? Are you having normal daily bowel movements? Cool. Welcome to humanity.
Right.
Stop over on that stuff.
Well, it's like pathologizing those things that don't need to be pathologized because they hear the terminology, because they see these authority figures spitting out these words. And it does create this level of fear and anxiety towards it, because now it's like every single fart and every single time their knee cracks, it's like, well, I have a problem and I need to go get it fucking checked out.
I almost feel like it goes back more to what Anthony said at the beginning of like they want to point something. Because if there was really fear and anxiety about it, people would change their lifestyle.
That's true.
No, because I've seen people get debilitating diagnoses of stuff and they don't do shit.
Fear only motivates for a certain amount of time, and then it kind of gets away. Yeah. I think the only way to truly defeat any kind of desire that you have to have, like, we as human beings are wired to always, every decision we ever make is the thing we actually want most in that moment. And you can say, no, I can think of times that I don't actually do what I want to do. Like, I want to drive 120 miles an hour down the road. Yeah, but why don't you? Well, a greater desire has arisen over that, which is either to not get pulled over, or I don't want to die around that corner. Right? I'd really like to shoot that guy because he's rude. I would also like to not go to jail more than I would like to shoot that guy, and so I don't. And so this is the way that we are wired. It's like every choice we make in that moment is the thing we actually want in that moment. So to change, you have to change your habits, and you have to truly have a desire for something greater. That's hard.
I love that because we talk about that all the time. I say all the time, people don't really know what they want. They say they want to be shredded. They say they want this and that, but then they keep going on the weekends and overdoing things and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's a great way to just even confront a client or yourself with that. Like, no, it's not really what you want. You want to be out drinking with friends on the weekend.
That's right. And
that's what you want.
And then you have to talk yourself through that. And the thing is, like, you can't be passive in your thought life, or you're just going to be ruled by every whim and desire. Yes. It's like you have to take an active role. Yeah. Aram knows I'm a Christian. I go to church, and there's a passage in the Bible that talks about, hey, take your thoughts captive. So you have to rule over them. And so you have to preach truth to yourself and say, hey, dude, like right now you say you want this, whatever that thing might be. Like, I'm in prep. I do that chocolate chip cookie. My daughter's 12 and she's baking constantly. She's making homemade cinnamon rolls right now.
Why does she hate you?
That's what I'm saying. and so like, I want that cinnamon roll. But I want to look shredded as shit for Muscle Beach.
He's going to pretend he's on a podcast for the next 4 hours.
You know,
he's going to stay in that basement.
Let's go. That's right. So, I have to talk to myself and say, and there was a really old dead guy, an old dead preacher from the 1700s who used to talk about competing desires. And he said, the only way that you kill a desire is the expulsive power of a superior affection. In other words, the only way you're going to kill this desire down here is by something more powerful. Yeah. So you have to be for something, not against something, right? You can't you have to be for a positive vision of yourself. You can't be against the negative vision of yourself, which is why body shaming doesn't work. Yeah. If you're only against the negative vision of yourself, cool, you're just going to feel like shit and go eat the cookies anyways for the dopamine hit. If you're for the positive vision of the future that you might create and the person you might be, boy, that's powerful. And you can set the cookie aside for right now.
Yeah.
You know.
So a couple of minutes left. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that with some wisdom that you might have and the experience you've had with folks that are battling emotional eating. What are some very low-hanging fruit tactics that you can deploy with folks that tend to be using food as a comfort mechanism?
I use food as a comfort mechanism, straight up. I know this about myself. Do you know how I know this about myself? I'm gonna be straight with you guys. Everybody who's listening to this, you can call me out and be like, oh, you know, because I've probably said things. I've totally tried semaglutide and tirzepatide just to see what they felt like in cuts and things like that. Semaglutide was awful, at least for me, only because it was the most powerful in that it was like it hit the off switch to hunger, and I actually did struggle to even want to eat protein. And so I could see how muscle wasting could be an actual problem because I didn't want to eat food.
Well, now you got genius shots from RP.
Yes. And
Get back on it and do genius shots.
Straight up, I actually did like tirzepatide was like kind of cool because it cut out the food noise, but it didn't like turn the appetite off. Right.
That's what I've heard about it.
Yeah. There's different ones like, you know, and then there's retatrutide, which is like a 3-part GLP-1 and all kinds of whatever. And so I liked that. I used that. And here's how I knew that I ate food for comfort, because I was on it and I didn't really want to eat, but then I would be stressed out and my wife's making cookies or whatever else. I'm like, I am physically not hungry. The chicken literally just had no appeal to me. I didn't want my potatoes. I didn't want my rice. I want that sweet thing because I want the dopamine. So I struggle with that. So one of the things that I do, apart from my daughter baking, is, guys, just don't keep shit in your house. Like, I love ice cream. So I don't keep ice cream in my house. So if I want ice cream, which I do a lot in the summer, I round up the family. We go out to a farm. I get a cone. A cone, is it the worst thing in the world? No, it's not the worst thing in the world. And it's way better than eating the whole pint.
Yeah, and every day throughout every week.
Now it's a family experience. We go out to the farm, kids playing on the playground, looking at the cows. I'm eating an ice cream cone. I get my fix. I go home. I feel I'm satisfied. I got my treat. I also didn't overdo it. So I would say first thing is, man, just like eliminate the stuff from your house. Like if you have a temptation, don't stand right there in the middle of it. Where are you setting yourself up for failure? You know? And then I think other people need to take time. One of the most sobering things that I did, and I still like almost get emotional when I think about it, and I revisit it every year, but 5 years ago I had a friend challenge me to write out my own obituary. And to write out like my own obituary, but then like letters to my kids at what age, like perspective, hey, 20 years out, you know, and so I'm like writing a note to my daughter who, you know, at the time, so she'd be 27. My son would be this age, whatever else. And I'm like looking at what my life could be. And I'm like, what I desire it to be. And then I'm just working backwards from there, 20 years to 15 years to 5 years to 1 year to break everything up into quarters. What are the actions I need to take today to hit the 1 year plan, to hit the 5 year, 15, 20, whatever else. And I'm like, man, when I started creating a positive vision of my future, it made it a hell of a lot easier to change my actions in the present. And so I think some people just don't have a purpose. They don't have a reason for living. And so it makes it easy to grab the cookies. But it's like, if you have a vision and a positive aim for your life, man, I'm not going to say that you're always going to, I give in to cookies, right? But I've gotten better now, and I've gotten better at planning things into my life. My wife and I are going to this great new rooftop bar that opened in Lancaster tomorrow night. And so I've been dialed all week. I'll have like an egg white omelet and protein shakes, whatever. And then I'm going to go have some drinks and eat whatever we want on the menu and enjoy myself guilt-free, get right back on the plan. And so but I think like having that positive vision of who I want to be and where I want to go really helps me to take control in the moment. That's been the most powerful for me.
I couldn't disagree. That's awesome. Well, Jimmy, you want to hit him with the final?
Yeah. So we like to ask, have you ever listened to a full episode of ours?
I have not listened to the end of this, apparently. I'm scared.
Shit. Fucking bunch of scumbags we have on here. We ask every one of our guests questions that we can compare and judge you to all previous guests. We are over 170 at this point.
I have. Yes. Go ahead. Ask me.
You have, so you know?
Make me I don't ask me.
So our final question is bye-bye.